And good morning, YouTube. It's Old Soldier coming at you from Robeson County, North Carolina, on this cold and blustery morning here that we're having. Say cold and blustery, it's not really blustery, but it's cold. But I guess it's about 38 degrees out here right now. For me, anything below 50 degrees is cold. But anyway, what to talk about this morning is there's so much that has transpired in the last 24 to 48 hours that is of note, and some of it's of concern, some of it's, well, I did something with the camera, hang on. There we go. Some of it's concern, and some of it's, good news to be, in my opinion, celebrated. One piece of information that come out, listen to me. One bit of news that came out yesterday that was, I thought, pretty awesome was that Miss Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, suspended her campaign to run for the President of the United States of this here America. If you've been keeping up with anything in the rat race for the Democratic nomination for their nominee for the upcoming election, what you'll see is that her poll numbers have been dropping, especially after the debate where Tulsi Gabbard just kind of hit her with an iron fist, because I've said it before, I'll say it again, out of all the potential candidates on the Democratic side, if it boiled down that there's two Democrats to vote for president, Tulsi Gabbard would be my vote. I don't have any faith in the rest of them. You ask why? Well, I'll tell you this. Go look at her background. Look at where she comes from. Look at the values that she holds. I'm not saying she's perfect, but I think she's more centered to the issues that affect us all, whereas her contemporaries, if you will, are all out there in outer space and far left field. I think Ms. Gabbard's a little more level-headed, if you will, I guess is the way to term it. But anyway, I was so happy to hear that Kamala Harris had suspended her campaign. And oddly enough, what was funny was that part of her suspending her campaign, people did some analysis and reports, she was spending money faster than she could bring it into her campaign. Imagine what she would have done to this country had she been elected president with the taxpayer's checkbook. But anyway, that was the best news I got all day yesterday. Heard all day yesterday. Other news, the potential gun laws that are about to sweep in Virginia. Boy 32 did a video on it. I want to say Guns and Gadgets has done one. I haven't watched his yet. But basically, the ongoing issue now is you've got, if you look at a map of the counties, you've got about 85% of the state's counties have pretty much voted to become sanctuary counties for the Second Amendment. In other words, the laws that the legislature in Richmond are about to push through the entire state of Virginia, these counties are going to say, nope, nada. Doesn't apply, infringement 2A. I haven't seen all the laws that Virginia's about to impose, but I would not be surprised if they resemble or reflect the values and the laws that are in effect in California for gun ownership and restrictions thereof. If you live here in North Carolina, folks, Roy Cooper gets reelected and he gets people in position that he needs in position, North Carolina could be the next one to follow suit. And I say that to say this. The Second Amendment it's a political hotbed right now. Has been for several years. It is in our Bill of Rights, i.e. the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Last little piece says, shall not be infringed. Friend, let me tell you, I'm all for that. But what we've got to do in the Second Amendment community, we've got to stop bickering amongst ourselves about trivial issues and focus at the core, which is our right to bear arms. And there's a lot of you out there that are upset because they banned bump stocks. I get it. I'm not a fan of bump stocks. I'm not against bump stocks. I don't care for them. I have a need for one. And I say that to say this. If we focus on one little aspect of our right to bear arms, I think we lose vision of the greater threat to our Second Amendment, which is eventually a total outright ban of firearms. But again, as I said before on my Second Amendment rants, is that the real culprit behind the movement to ban or amend or remove the Second Amendment, repeal it, whatever you want to call it, is not to completely eradicate firearms from this nation. It is to give an ultra, uber, elite group the right to bear arms, i.e. a privilege for that group, and suspend the rights of all others. Therefore, the minority controls the majority and do so through by fear. Now, if you don't believe that's what's happening, go back and look at history. Every time a nation has a revolution, every time a nation is reformed, if you will, the government reforms, it's because a certain group of people took the ability of the other group of people away to defend themselves. Or the government stepped in and took away that right from the people and said, we'll protect you, and the people rose up and overthrew the government. Don't believe me? Go back and look at history. First thing any communist nation that has come into power has happened, once that fruit of communism was planted, the first thing they do is they go through and they start terrorizing the people. They start assassinating political leaders, intellectuals, educators, government officials. Then once they get their hooks into the people, they disarm the masses. I'm telling them, you can't have this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Only we can have guns at the governmental level. And then they begin to rule by fear. That's the greater thing that we have to fight, people. That's the greater thing that we need to be on the lookout for. And again, if they take the Second Amendment, what's to stop the government from taking the First? They're already infringing the Fourth Amendment with the red flag laws, the no-knock warrants. And I get it, law enforcement, no-knock warrants. Sometimes you have to do it. And I'm not against it, but I think it has been abused. But red flag laws are definitely an outright violation of the Fourth Amendment, because you take that person's right of due process away right off the bat. They don't even have the opportunity at the moment. Okay. Well, everybody says, well, they still get their day in court. Maybe. Just putting it out there, folks. That is the greater thing that we in the 2A community need to focus on, is protecting the core value, the root of that amendment, that right. They stop arguing about trivial things. Now somebody might say, well, bump stock's not trivial. Okay. In the greater scheme of things, I think that it is. Because if we focus on just one area, again, like I said, we lose sight of the bigger picture. And again, I'm not saying that the banning of bump stocks was right. But I think we kind of blew our gaskets to an extent on it. Does it need to be fought to be reinstated? Yes. And I might not be explaining this the best in the world, and I might come off as I'm anti, but I'm not really, folks. I just think sometimes we focus too much on one area and we fail to look at the bigger picture of what's at stake here, if that makes sense. Well, there goes Mr. Tailgater again, 22342W. I'm sorry, county vehicle speeding and tailgating, I've reported multiple times. Obviously, they haven't said anything about this gentleman's driving habits. I'll send up another report. But anyway, folks, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there. But again, once one falls, it's a domino effect. And there's a group out there too that says, well, you guys always protect the Second Amendment right. What about the rights of ex-convicts? Well, I've stated in my video before, I think to a certain extent, if they've paid their debt to society, they ought to have their rights restored, but under certain provisions. If they went to jail for committing a violent crime with a firearm, it's my belief they've lost that right. They gave up that right. But if they went for, multiple times of shoplifting and they've been reformed or redeemed, and I'm not the subject matter expert on what rights ought to be restored, but I know some states will restore a felon's voting rights. And I think that's only fair if they've paid their debt to society and they've got no more trouble since they got out and they've met all the conditions of their parole or probation. Because that's been a big thing. You've been a convicted felon, you can't own a firearm. Yes and no. In most states, convicted felon can own black powder. Okay, well, black powder is a whole lot harder to reload if you get into a shooting match with somebody. And long story short, that's something that needs to be debated and brought up, and criteria established to restore rights to ex-convicts or ex-felons, however you want to term it, when they are released and they have fully paid their debt to society. There are those that seem to think that the moment they're on probation, they ought to get them. Well, no, they're on probation. Technically, they're still serving out their sentence. Do I have a complete answer for that? No, I don't. But I think it's something that we need to talk about. Again, I think nonviolent offenders who have done their time, paid their debt to society, ought to have that right restored to them. That's my opinion. I'm one of many. Tell me in the comment section below what you think ought to happen with those. Because there's a group adamant, regardless if they were violent or non-violent, that they believe that a ex-felon shouldn't have any of their rights restored. I kind of disagree if they've paid their debt to society and they've gotten in no more trouble. But sadly, I hate to say it in this day and age, we've put a stereotype on convicted felons. And I get where some of it comes from. I really, truly do. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a guy who loves his country, who served his country, that's got a compassionate heart for certain things. I think everybody deserves a second chance. But again, I think it's something that needs to be debated and something. But see, that there again, that is something that needs to take place in state legislatures. Because I was reading some comments on Coda Boy 32's post yesterday, and one of the guys was commenting about, some people being hypocritical about their Second Amendment rights and the rights of convicted felons. Kind of where I'm going with that one. But another one was that there needs to be an electoral college in every state. Well, that's the part of our Constitution that enables the rights to the states that are not granted to the federal government to govern themselves accordingly. I think it would be a fair allocation of power in every state if they had similar measures when it comes to voting. But if I'm not mistaken, the majority of all the states, all their legislatures, their governors are all done by popular vote, not by an electoral college like it is for the presidency. I think that the states have a right to govern themselves as they see fit, in accordance with the Constitution, what the Constitution states. And basically, all powers that are enumerated, that are not enumerated in the states, I'm messing it up, trying to paraphrase it. Basically, what it states that states pretty much govern themselves, and any powers that are not done so by the federal government, the states will enforce accordingly within their own borders. And honestly, that's the way it should be. But again, that's where I think the federal government too overreaches its bounds. And again, case example, I don't think the federal government should have any business telling North Carolina what they can trade to Virginia, and Virginia to North Carolina, and North Carolina to South Carolina. I think the states need to work out their own trade agreements. The federal government needs to stay out of it. But obviously somebody did something to screw something up to where they had to pass the Interstate Commerce Act that basically regulates certain business transactions across state lines. And I think that needs to be reviewed and looked at again. If I'm a businessman here in North Carolina and I want to do business with a guy in Washington State, I don't think the federal government's got any business telling me how I should conduct business with that individual business, and vice versa. In my opinion. And disclaimer here, everything I'm talking about is my opinion. I ain't perfect. For all you naysayers that might be watching, or the trollsters that are out there that want to nitpick every little thing that I say, because I've had a few here lately that want to seem to step up and spout off things, and had one that wanted to kind of go on a personal attack about my service to this country. And I know they're going to be out there, but I'm just letting it be known. I have an opinion, and I have a First Amendment right, according to the Constitution, to express my opinion as I see fit. But again, folks, I'm going to close this one out. Again, some food for thought out there, some things we need to debate on, some things that we need to concentrate on, and especially in the Second Amendment community. Again, I don't have the be-all, know-all answer to that strategy. but I think within our Second Amendment community, we need to stop bickering about trivial, well, I say trivial, maybe it's a poor term, about smaller issues and look at the bigger whole. We can always come back to the smaller ones once we solve the issue of firming up our protection of our Second Amendment rights. With that being said, folks, I got to close this thing out so I can get ready to go to work. God bless each and every one of you this day. I pray and hope that you're having a great day and getting all your Sandy Claus wish list all taken care of before Christmas Eve gets here. That being said, charities, I'd ask you to help out. ThoughtsOfAnOldSoldier, Folds of Honor, Pin Up for Vets and Valor for Veterans. They can't do it by themselves. Anything you can do to help them out, they would greatly appreciate. I'd greatly appreciate. Vendors, I'd ask you to help out Money Quick Pond, Rayford Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Note for Robert's Custom Woodworks. His shop will be closed until after the 2nd of January. So if you have not got an order into him, you'll have to wait till after the 2nd of January to get an order into him. But keep him in mind when he does reopen. And then Unsung Patriot. Check both of them out on their Etsy websites. Got a lot of great stuff. And again, if you like my poetry that I read on Monday nights, and you haven't got my books yet, they're available on Amazon, and they'd make some great stocking stuffers for Christmas this year. So get your order in now. Likewise, my t-shirts are available on my Teespring site. Check them out. And until then, God bless, take care. Love one another. Remember our men and women in uniform, both foreign and domestic, overseas and in our local communities. Pray for them and their families. And until tomorrow, my friends, this is the Old Soldier. God bless, take care. Old Soldier out.